All right. So, um, how's it going, everybody? So, maybe some of you guys are watching online live right now. I have got a little bit of a different venue today. I've been a busy week, so I've been trying to think about how to get these videos out. But I'm currently on the very pretty campus of Grand Canyon University. I'm sitting behind some building. It's quiet here. On the other side, it's nuts, and people are riding through on their scooters. So I'm out of the way. I'm not going to get run over by scooters and all that. But I'm sitting in the sun, the warm November sun on a Phoenix day, which it just doesn't feel like the holiday season. It doesn't feel like we're this close to Thanksgiving because I'm sweating right now too. But I love where I live. Okay, so here's the next video that we're going to do, and we're going to talk about what is the 12th question in the new City Catechism. So the question that we have today is the question 12, what does God require in the 9th and 10th commandments? Now this is important, right? Because hopefully as a Christian, and if you're at Royal Palms, hopefully that we would know what the commandments actually teach, right? That you would know, what are the 10? Those are so basic. I throw this out sometimes too, and I say, look, if you were just even thinking about if God were just going to judge you by the 10 commandments, how would you do? The problem is we don't know 10 commandments. So I love the fact that New City Catechism is helping to kind of establish us and build us in the 10 commandments. So let's look at how they deal with what the commandments are. So the answer to this is first, that the 9th commandment is that we don't lie or deceive, but speak the truth in love. And the 10th is that we're content, not envying anyone or resenting what God has given them or us. So this is important, right? Because when you read the 10 commandments, we see don't bear false witness and don't covet. And then it gives on about what you should not covet. But I want to talk about the way that New City Catechism does this, because I think it's really important. The way that the book talks about it is that it really gets to the heart of what's behind those, right? So that we don't lie or deceive, but we speak the truth in love. Remember, we have the negative pieces, don't do this. But as Christians, we should try to think of what's the opposite of that? Like, how do I fulfill that in a positive way, right? So you'll see the same thing with the 10th, that we are content, not envying anyone or resenting what God has given them or us. So instead of being angry or envious or jealous over something God has given, why don't I do the reverse? And I try to either be happy for what they have been given, or I am content. By the way, I got to do a shout out to Ivy and Jesse as they were just going through, as we were getting ready for the kids' play, and they were talking through auditions for the little kids. And what a great way to talk about it. They were talking about, especially when you think about the coveting and being envious, instead of saying, I want for me, celebrate the fact that they've got it. So shout out to you guys. Good job. Now, these are coming out of something. These are not just being thrown in here because they think it'd be a great idea to teach it this way, but they're rooted out of some certain verses. So one of them obviously comes from James chapter 2, verse 8. It says, indeed, if you fulfill the royal law prescribed in the scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you're doing well. Now, remember, Jesus was told, what's the most important commandment? Love the Lord your God. And then the other one is love your neighbor as yourself. So James is teaching us that, look, if that's a rooted principle, if that's something that you really are trying to see is, I'm going to love my neighbor as myself, then you're going to be able to fulfill this law, that you shouldn't have any issues doing that. And so I think that's something that we should take note of. Now, this is important because when we talk about love in our culture today, we mean all sorts of things. If you're not careful, you will find yourself being a liar and being someone who is envious, and you think that that's perfectly compatible with being a loving person and fulfilling this. That the problem is our culture defines love in all sorts of weird ways. And our culture defines love often without any boundaries put on it. But the truth is, when we see the commandments of don't lie, don't covet, those are things that really strike at the heart of things. So the positive note is I'm going to try to be loving towards somebody else. I'm going to try to keep their best interests in mind. I'm going to love my neighbor as myself. I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to be angry and jealous of things. So I'm going to try to do that for somebody else. But there's some other biblical pieces that we need to keep in mind that the 9th and 10th commandments strike at. And so you'll see in our verses here, one of them comes from Jeremiah 17, 9 through 10. The heart is more deceitful than anything else and incurable. Who could understand it? I, the Lord, examine the mind. I test the heart to give each according to his way, according to what his actions deserve. Now, I think this is important because those verses are really striking at the fact that what's behind lying, what's behind covetousness is a wicked, wicked heart. And those are put in there because I'm prone to lie. I'm prone to be envious and wicked. And that's what we need to realize. It's not just simply the act itself, but I need to get back the fact that deep down, my heart cannot be the measure of what I think I should do. You know, we live in a time where we say, well, just trust your heart. Well, if I'm trusting my heart, the way that I see it played out in a Hallmark movie, then I'm going to do whatever it takes to fulfill the things that I want in my heart, which means I'll lie and I'll steal and I'll be envious because I'm just trusting my heart. I'm being true to who I am, right? When I really look down what the Bible is saying is the heart's wicked. The heart is not a good measure, right, for how I should be loving my neighbor as myself. Jesus even will teach on this, and you see this in Matthew 12, 33 through 37. Either make the tree good and its fruit will be good, or make the tree bad and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is known by its fruit. Fruit of vipers, how can you speak good things when you're evil? For the mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart. A good person produces good things from the storeroom of good, and an evil person produces evil things from his storeroom of evil. I tell you that on the day of judgment, people will have to account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you'll be acquitted, by your words you'll be condemned. Once again, Jesus is making it very clear that my choice to be envious, my choice to be a liar is rooted in a heart issue. Those are things that we better get right and we better fix. And that you don't just fall into that you've got that deep down that you need to deal with. And so you'll see that when somebody is doing this because they've not checked themselves, they've not actually given that up to the Lord. And so when we begin to go back to the commands, right, we get back into what are we supposed to be doing and understand is that we are, as a people, we're going to not just say, well, okay, I'm not going to try to lie, but I'm going to deal with the heart issue. I'm gonna deal with who I am, and then I'm also need to try to deal with, I'm gonna try to love my neighbor as myself. I'm not just gonna try to envy. I'm not gonna envy them. I'm gonna realize my heart is wicked. If I really tried to give it up, I would probably fulfill all sorts of wicked desires. And so instead, I'm gonna try to fulfill the positive of that is to be loving towards them and to not be envious or jealous, to be content with the things God has given me, content with the place that he has placed me, and be happy for those things that God has given them. So as we close this out, I want you to think about this. 9th, that we do not lie or deceive, but speak the truth in love. 10th, that we are content, not envying anyone or resenting what God has given them or us. All right, guys, glad you could watch. Hopefully you're doing all right. Take those, think about them. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys later.